So like, I want to say about like 2 years ago, I did like an entire video on the B word, on orange internet money, which is why I started calling it that, because, and even that, I think the algorithm has even caught up to the term orange internet money now. So, because if I even references it a lot of times, I can see the distortion very quickly. And so, but no, ordinarily, to answer your question, and I answered it before a while back, I'll give you a more thorough my opinion of it. I think it's a brilliant idea. I think mathematically it's a precision idea. I don't think you could make a more mathematically good idea to come up with that solves a lot of problems. And it does. It genuinely solves the issue of money printing. It solves the issue of auditing, because everybody can audit it. You know, you don't have to be some special auditor that works for the government, and there's none of that. It's just, you can just be you, and you can just go there and look and see that every 10 minutes it audits. So I think it solves a ton of problems, and I think that it's a really, really, really good idea. Have I paved the way enough for this? Let me give you the whole story. Do I think it will work? My short answer, hi Driveway Kitty. My short answer is yes. It will actually work. Do I think people want it? Now that's another question entirely. I happen to agree with Tears for Fears. I think everybody wants to rule the world. I must be one of the maybe 10 people who don't really want to rule the world. I just see that as more of a burden. Man, I just want a pool in my backyard. Well, after that, I'm solid. I don't really need to rule the world. I just want to be kind of left alone and, hang out in my pool and so forth, and maybe do a video here and there, something like that, and continue doing all of the work that I do all the time right now. The building work, all the, I'll have my, I have my livestock, so I'm shepherd and carpenter and so forth, kind of like just this other stuff that I have to do. I don't know that I want to rule the world. But a lot of people want to. And so a lot of people have a lot of really good ideas about how I want to save this and I want to save that. There's a lot of people who especially get themselves caught up in a little bit too much compassion. And there is this idea that goes through their mind, and I don't want to call it a disease. I can't even think of a good word for it. I'll have to get back to you on that. But it's a mentality that people have of like, well, but if we have the ability to print money, then we can solve a lot of problems and we can bring about a lot of good for humanity. And it's like, that's not what happens though. It's never what happens. You can't steal from humanity and then expect to get, you can't turn a curse into a blessing. You can't curse people with inflation by printing away their spending power to try and solve your problems, or a problem that you see as a problem, and so therefore you want to solve it with best of intentions. Does that make sense? It doesn't really work like that. As opposed to the people like, well, but we want to solve poverty. There is no solution to poverty. And I've tried explaining this to, I have a lot of lefty followers, and it's like, I've tried explaining this to leftists a lot, and many of them still don't understand it. You can't solve poverty because I don't want a 40,000 square foot house. I don't want a 10,000 square foot house. The house that I'm building is plenty. In fact, it's more than plenty for me and my wife, and everything. It's more than enough, okay? So you're never gonna solve poverty because there's always going to be something that somebody else sees as relative poverty. So there is no actual solution for that. And there is this natural tendency that people tend to get a little high-minded and say, well, but if we could just control the money, then I can move it over here and I can solve this problem or that problem. That's not how it works. People have to want to solve their own problems. This is why Josh was very clear to people of explaining to them that when you teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime kind of thing. Yeah, it's so that way he can choose to not fish if he doesn't want to. Right? What if he wants to go on a 5-day fast? Well, then he really doesn't need to have you cramming food down his throat. It's, you know what I mean? So, yeah. And there is this problem that a lot of people get into. So there's a lot of folks who want to rule the world through altruism, which will turn into tyranny. every single time it's tried, because that's just what ends up happening. People pervert. They also tend to lose touch, especially once you're part of the so-called intelligentsia or part of the so-called ruling class. No one is exempt from this, by the way. No one's exempt from this. It's one of the reasons why people who actually understand power, when they really understand it, they really don't want it. They look at it and go, I want nothing to do with that. Or they treat it very delicately, because they do understand power. They do understand that, like, you can cause a ripple effect in time that 50 years later may not show up. Like, so in other words, in your lifetime of your rule, something happens as a result of it. Do I think that, like, Woodrow Wilson, let's be fair here, do I think that Woodrow Wilson really understood the level of damage that he caused with the Federal Reserve Act in 1913? I think that he maybe have realized that it was going to be a big problem and it would cause a bunch of issues later on. I think that if you were to show him today, I think that, like, if I could magically, like, reach back in time, like a split second before, his demise, and bring him into the future, right? Like John the Revelator style, and say, Woodrow, this is what you did by creating the Federal Reserve Act. This is what you did. You effectively doomed the entire country to poverty and serfdom. And then show, like, this is what happened. And endless amounts of wars. Tons and tons and tons of people unalived to pay for a bunch of wars that Americans really had no business being involved in the first place, and had no real reason to be involved. I think that it would be one of these things, like, and this is the chance. So the people who understand how power works, they're very cautious. They don't like to throw around the idea of, let's just willy-nilly start doing this, start doing that, and fixing it. You want to go slow. In fact, you want to try and use a very light touch. You want to back off and let people start, solve a lot of their own problems. That's really what you want. This is why you talk to people. I have yet to see any like, let me be really clear here. I'll just give you, this is just world according to Axel, okay? I have yet to see any politician anywhere, ever, like, turn their phone on like this. And I talk about this a lot. I still have yet to see a politician do this and then say, and answer questions and just give their thoughts on, like, maybe this would solve this problem or that problem or what have you. It's always something like, I have this idea, I'm going to solve all your problems, vote for me. It's always something like that. It's this weird grandstanding bullshit, and they all do it to an extent. It's never, why don't you just throw out some good ideas and just tell people, hey, listen, we're not here to solve all your problems. It's the truth. It's the truth. You're not supposed to solve everybody's problems. People are supposed to solve their problems. That's how they get rich. Full stop. That's how you get rich, is that you identify your problems in your life, and then you say, maybe other people could benefit from this. And then you become, a mentor to them. Serious. It's like 1,000,000 degrees out here, by the way. So, yeah, that's the part that I never see happening. I don't see anybody actually trying to educate. It's always about trying to make people as ignorant as possible. Yeah, I think that's the exact opposite of what should be being done. Even the Orange Messiah, Fulsa Boomer, even him, like, I don't see him, like, engaging or talking to people. I don't see him doing any of this kind of stuff. It's all grandstanding bullshit. He's totally out of his depth, and he is. You can see it in his face. He's completely out of his depth. He has no idea what he's doing. And if he does, he's just following orders. That's, at best, that's what he's doing. So that's my thought on orange internet money, which is a lot. Do I think it's a perfect idea? I think it's a great idea, and it solves an awful lot of problems. Do I think people want to solve those problems? I think most people want the problem not to apply to them. They just want to make a bunch of money, so that way the problem doesn't apply to them. They don't really give a shit what happens to anybody else. I'm one of those guys that would like to actually solve the problem for real, for everybody, and then take my chances in the marketplace. But then again, I like to live dangerously.